Good day and welcome to today's webcast. This call is being recorded, and now I'd like to begin the program by turning it over to Chris Flack. Please go ahead.
Hey, thank you so much, Evan, and welcome everybody in our audience to today's webcast, Faster Failover Starts with a Faster Cloud, sponsored by Infrascale. I'm Chris Flack with rcpmag.com, and I'm here to be your host for today's event, so thank you all for joining. Just a few quick things before we get started with today's presentation and introduce our speaker. Just a few quick notes. So today's webcast will feature a Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. We do encourage you to enter your question at any time during the presentation if you have a question for our speakers. We are also going to be giving away a great prize for the person who asks the most relevant and best questions during the question and answer session today. We're going to be giving away a Parrot drone, a really cool prize, so make sure you ask some really good questions at the end of the show today for our presenters. We are also recording today's event for future viewing and listening purposes, and we'll send you a link to the email you registered with within 24 to 48 hours after the show is over. Please feel free to share that link with anybody who may be interested in today's topic. You could also use the little paper airplane dock down there, the little paper airplane icon down there in your dock to actually send an email to a coworker right now, and they can join you in the console for the presentation. Joining us for today's webcast, we have two really great presenters. Joining us is going to be Stefan Fima. He works at Infrascale. And also we're going to be joined by Adam Smith from Google. A little bit about both gentlemen quickly. Adam joined Google in 2006 as part of the team that launched the Google Search Appliance and then G Suite. He later relocated from New York to Sydney to support the launch of Google's Asia-Pacific enterprise business. Before joining the Google Cloud Platform team, he led the business development efforts for Chrome for Work. He currently resides in San Francisco with his family of four. Adam grew up in New Orleans and has a bachelor's degree in international relations from the University of Pennsylvania. And Stefan has over 20 years of experience in leading technology and product management teams at both tech startups and large software companies. Prior to joining Infrascale, he led efforts to make PassLogix an industry leader in the enterprise security space, to be recognized by Gartner and purchased by Oracle. He is fluent in French and Spanish and received a BS in Aerospace and Mechanical Engineering from UCLA and an MBA from Columbia University. He is passionate about aeronautics and holds a personal pilot's license. Very cool. Both guys are really great presenters, and we're in for a really good presentation today. Quickly, however, we were just curious with a quick little poll question here just to gauge where everybody's at in the audience today. How many of you are using the cloud for more than 50% of your applications? Your options are yes, no, or not sure. So I'll give everybody a couple seconds to answer the following poll question. While in the meantime, while I wait for people to answer this question, don't forget we are giving away the Parrot drone at the end of today's program. So please feel free, if you have a great question, to enter it at any time in the console so that way the guys can get to your question. And hopefully if they don't get to your question, they'll get back to you once the presentation is over. So thank you all for participating in the poll. We'll push out some results here, and at the same time I would like to introduce Stefan so that way he could actually start the program off and get going with today's agenda and program. So Stefan, please take the floor.
Great, thank you, Chris. And so in our poll, if I think I saw those results quickly, about 20% of the attendees are using the cloud for more than half of their business, 80% are not. So interestingly enough, today we're going to be talking all about cloud and business continuity and how that might benefit some of your clients in the industry. So the agenda will cover four basic items. First is just an overview of threats to business continuity. Second part will be how the cloud can actually address some of that. Thirdly, Adam will talk a lot about Google Cloud and all of its unique benefits, and then I'll come back and talk about the unique synergies that come to bear when we bring both of them together, as well as some of the unique opportunities for channel partners in this space. So if we think about threats to uptime of companies, right, we really can think about three things. One is just the loss of data. Secondly is what I like to call data hijacking, typically via ransomware. And then thirdly is business downtime due to not just losing access to data or losing data, but actually having systems that go down. So if you think about data loss, this problem is basically as old as the computer industry is. Ever since we've had computers, we've had the question of what happens if you lose data, and the admonition that we should all do good backups so as to prevent against that. And yet, in spite of that, even to this day, we still have lots and lots of people and companies that lose data. And you can see the statistics here. These are recent statistics. This might be people that inadvertently delete data. This might be people that are in a rush to a meeting and forget their laptop in the back of a taxi. Somebody who forgets their iPhone on an airplane when they're getting off the airplane. Things like this and other things, traditional causes, all cause significant amounts of data loss, and without proper backup or other means of assuring that your data is there, data loss can really hurt you. Now, there's a particular kind of data loss, which again I call data hijacking, since the data is not necessarily really gone. But this is where you no longer have access to your data because some malicious actor has introduced malware into either your computer or your organization's computers and has encrypted the data. Sometimes it happens very quickly, sometimes it happens very slowly in sort of a long con, if you wish, where they slowly encrypt the data while the user still has access to it for a while. And then when they've encrypted enough of it, boom, all of a sudden they kick in the lock and you go to your computer and there's a big screen that asks you to pay a certain amount of money in Bitcoin. And if you don't do that by a certain time, the price goes up until the deadline, and if you don't meet the deadline, then pretty soon you no longer have access to your data. And this is actually probably one of the biggest burgeoning illegal industries in the world. It has collected millions and millions and millions of revenue for these illicit actors, even just as most recently as last year. So this is a second issue that can really trip up our business continuity. Thirdly is downtime. Downtime, when your systems go down, there are causes that happen a lot that are typically confined to one or two systems. Sometimes we call these system outages. Sometimes we can refer to these as micro disasters. This could be as simple as hardware that fails, RAID controller fails, or disk drive crashes, or something else happens. Could be a traditional software virus that gets introduced into your systems and brings down a computer. Could be a human issue. Somebody either inadvertently or angrily decided to delete data, and in deleting that data brings down the system. And lastly, it could be environmental stuff. Power goes out, brown out, whatever. These are the kinds of things that can cause you trouble. On the right side are things that happen not so frequently, at least for the most of us, but when they do happen, they take out more than just one particular application or one particular system. They might take out an entire site, right? And when that happens, you need to have some way of getting things back up and running, typically at a different remote site. And so this is the things that we typically think of when we think in terms of disasters. And this is actually quite prevalent. Whether we look at small disasters or small outages, or we look at big ones, this happens quite a bit. And you see some of the statistics here. Hardware failure is one of the leading causes of downtime. Human error actually leads ahead of software. And then, least but not insignificant are natural disasters that are still, 5% of the root causes of downtime that organizations experience. So the point of this slide really is that, you hope it never happens to you. If you have a number of clients that you're taking care of, then you hope it never happens to any one of them, and any one of them on their own might think this will never happen to me. But collectively, the statistics show that among your entire client base, you might well have, one or two of them that experience an issue, every single year. And that cost to them can be significant. It obviously scales with the size of the organization. For a small organization, an hour of downtime might only cost $8,000. For a large one, it can easily exceed $500,000 an hour, and depending on the nature of the business, can go much more than that. So definitely, this is something that has cost. So now that we've briefly touched on the causes of downtime, let's talk about what we can do about them. And so we'll address each one sequentially, just the way that I talked about it, in setting up the problems: data loss, ransomware, and downtime. So when it comes to data loss, right, the admonition has been as old as the industry's been around, which is that we should be backing up our data. The way we tend to look at organizations, we sort of see a pyramid of the value of data, or a set of concentric rings from the outside in. So from the most outside ring will be users and their laptops and mobile devices where they have data on those devices. Next in will be remote and branch offices. This might be local servers at a branch office, something like that. Those have data as well. Then you get more and more towards the center of the organization. You'll have data centers that are core to the business, and then at the very center are really the mission-critical applications that the business just cannot run without. And typically, in the center, things are well protected. Organizations understand this, they understand the value of this, and so they've already put things in place to be able to back up and recover those data and those systems if required. Interestingly enough, however, is the fact that even though everybody knows we should be doing this, there is still a huge preponderance of organizations where endpoints, be it laptops or phones or whatever, and even branch office servers are not protected, right, or not sufficiently protected. And so this remains, this really remains an issue. And so in this day and age, what you really want is a cloud-based backup solution. And the reason for that is because a lot of endpoints, a lot of users are mobile, or they're remote, or they're increasingly working from home. So you don't necessarily have dedicated software-based solutions that can depend on corporate networks. So something that is installed on the user's computing device, connects to the internet, and backs up the data directly to the cloud is the right way to go. It allows the employees to be free to be wherever they have to be, whether it's at home or traveling or whatever. It doesn't depend on a corporate network. And yet keeps everything well protected in a secure central location, such that they can recover whenever they need to recover. So moving on, let's talk a little bit about ransomware. So with ransomware, we believe that really you need a multi-layered defense against this kind of a cyber attack. The first thing, obviously, is good end-user education. In a utopian world where nobody ever clicked a link to download a bad piece of software, ransomware would not be an issue. But unfortunately, much as we all wish to be responsible computer users, people get tricked. Okay, so the first thing is obviously good user education. Second thing would be good malware detection. Good antivirus, good malware detection software. That is a second line of defense to try and catch the stuff before it actually takes root in your systems. The third line of defense really is, in spite of the fact, in spite of the first two lines, if something still gets through, something still has encrypted your data, is still going to hold you up for ransom, is to have a good backup of that data, okay, and or of those systems. Now, generally speaking, any backup solution will do. Any backup solution that will allow you to restore the data, will allow you to go back in time to get the data before the ransom hit and restore your data without having to pay the ransom. There is, however, something that we at Infrascale are doing that sort of goes beyond just traditional backup. And that's what we call anomaly detection, which is basically the ability to monitor the data as we're backing it up and look at the patterns of data change. Or actually, let me correct myself, how frequently the data is changing. So what we call a change rate analysis. So if we see that a typical user, only a certain number of files are changing per day, and then all of a sudden we start seeing a spike where many, many, many more files are getting changed every day than seems normal, then that sets off a red flag that maybe somebody or something is encrypting their data underneath the hood, and the user doesn't know it yet, but within a few days or maybe in a few weeks, that user or many users are going to get held up for ransom. But we can detect those changes before the ransom is actually posted. And in doing that, we can send the alerts out and allow administrators or service providers to detect it before it hits, attempt to stop it, and revert to good data much more quickly, and therefore incurring much less loss of data and potentially avoiding having to pay the ransom at all. Okay, so let's move on now to the third topic, which can contribute to downtime and how we can address it, and that is disaster recovery. Now, disaster recovery really differentiates from data backup, and we're not just talking about data, we're talking about systems. If a system goes down, how do you get somebody back up and running quickly? Now, in the old days, data backup and DR were one and the same. You know, in the very old days, there was off-site tape backup of the entire system, and if that system went down, you had to rebuild or restore it. You got the tape back, and you tried to restore that way. Then came cloud backup and appliance-based backup solutions, which were conceptually the same as tape backup, only using modern technologies, so that you could recover the data, recover the system, recover that particular system if it went down, and get the user back up that way. And then if you had a need for quicker recovery times, if days and hours weren't good enough, and you needed to recover in minutes or seconds, then you moved into the area of having a second data center. Okay, and that second data center might be a cold site, a warm site, or a hot site, each of which cost you more, and each of which brought down your downtime into seconds or minutes instead of hours and days. The problem is that for every reduction in recovery time that you wanted, you had to spend more money. And if you're a large organization, you have the budgets that can afford that. If you're a small to medium enterprise or a small to medium business, then you didn't have the money and you were stuck. And so that has been the curve, or the paradigm, if you wish, for many, many years. And so the dream has always been, is there a way to offer disaster recovery to those companies that don't have the budgets for that, but have the same needs? And the answer now is yes. And the answer is to be able to provide a solution that gives recovery time in very, very quick time intervals, minutes or seconds, without the cost. And what makes this possible is two technologies. One is virtualization, and the second is cloud. Virtualization, because we can capture physical servers and convert them into virtual machines that can run elsewhere. And the cloud, because the cloud is a high-performance, industrial-strength infrastructure that is shared. Okay, and because it's shared, and you end up only paying for what you use when you use it, rather than having to pay for all of it whether or not you use it, that allows the costs that you pay or that your clients pay to be much, much reduced. And this really brings forward what we call disaster recovery as a service, as an internet service. So to show it to you this way, what is the difference between backup and DR? In backup, whether we talk about tape backup or backup using disk drives, you are basically capturing or backing up the data in the systems. You're storing those backups somewhere. If it was a tape, it was typically off-site. And then if some issue comes up, you would either retrieve the tape, and in either case, if it's hard drive backups or tape backup, you would restore to the original systems. And only when that was done, and that could take you hours or days, then you'd be back up and running. With DR, what we are actually doing is flipping the order of the run and the restore operations. So we capture system images in the same way as we did before, only now, instead of having to restore first, if an issue comes up, you can directly boot and run that image either locally or in the cloud. Okay, and I'll show you a little bit more about that in the next slide. But the result is that now if you have a downtime event, you can run directly from the backup in minutes and have your users back up and running. And then when the disaster passes, restore in your own time. So to show you how this works conceptually, let's suppose that here I have end users that are working on their own production systems. Let's install the Infrascale Disaster Recovery Solution, which is a hybrid cloud solution. That means that there is an on-premise failover appliance that is installed locally. Now this might be a virtual appliance or it might be a physical appliance, and a cloud-based service such as would run on a Google Cloud. We will capture the systems, capture them to the appliance, deduplicate them to compress the amount of data that is stored, replicate those systems up to the cloud. We now have 2 copies of all of those systems, one locally on the appliance and one centrally in the Google Cloud. If one system were to go down, the administrator could literally fail over to the local appliance, bring up a most recent replica or recovery point of that system, and now the users could continue working with that application or that server. Let's suppose that instead of a micro disaster or a system outage, we have a macro disaster or natural disaster that wipes out the entire site, which means that the failover appliance itself is no longer available. In this case, it's the same operation where we will fail over, but instead of failing over to a local appliance, we'll fail over to the cloud. And here, we'll bring up the entire environment within the cloud, a full virtual environment that replicates exactly what was on-premise. And now the users can continue working by interacting with a cloud-based instance. So Infrascale offers two internet services, Infrascale Cloud Backup and Infrascale Disaster Recovery. Both of them use the cloud. Infrascale Cloud Backup is a direct-to-cloud solution that is oriented around data and bare metal image backup, typically for endpoint data protection, so users' laptops and mobile devices, as well as small to medium businesses and their servers, as well as remote and branch offices of small to medium enterprise, or what we may call mid-market companies. Infrascale Disaster Recovery is a hybrid cloud solution that includes an on-premise component, as I previously mentioned, as well as a cloud component. And this solution can back up data just like Cloud Backup, but it goes further in capturing full system images and allowing you to boot and run those images on a local appliance and or in the cloud as necessary. And we do all of the work under the hood in order to prepare those captured images to be able to run in the cloud, even though they were originally installed and running on a local physical server that you had in your company. And so with that, I will turn it back over to Chris to go over the poll question.
Yeah, thanks so much. So we got a poll question for those of you in the audience, and if you wouldn't mind taking a second just to answer the following question. And after we ask this, after you guys answer this question and we get through, we'll be joined by Adam Smith from Google. So he'll be coming on to do the next couple set of slides. But in the meantime, please answer the following poll question. Which problem are you primarily looking to address with the cloud? Disaster recovery, ransomware mitigation, or compliance headaches? So while we wait for this answer, Stefan, what do you usually see people using, looking forward to address and when it comes to this question? What often do you see when you ask this of people out there?
So I see a lot of people looking to use the cloud for disaster recovery. I do see a lot of ransomware mitigation interest, especially in the last 6 to 9 months. That has really come pretty much out of nowhere to be one of the top inquiries that we get. We still see a lot of interest around data backup. Interestingly enough, we still see a preponderance of people that are using old tape backup systems that just want to modernize. And when they, we talk to them about, data backup and then introduce the concept of disaster recovery as a service and using cloud, many of them didn't know that such a thing was possible and are quite interested. Compliance, we see less so, and when we do see it, it's usually as a secondary requirement for one of the first three that I mentioned.
Excellent. Yeah, well, have some results here, and 100% unanimous response coming in and saying they are looking to address disaster recovery with the cloud. So thank you all for your participation in today's poll. And at this time, we'll welcome Adam Smith on from Google to share his couple slides that he has right here. So Adam, if you wouldn't mind taking the floor.
Thanks, Chris. Hi, everybody. Google's mission from its inception in 1998 has been to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. This has enabled Google to tackle ambitious projects like indexing the entire web, scanning the books of entire libraries, and crowdsourcing the world's largest video repository. But when I think of Google, I think of the infrastructure, the network, data centers, servers, all designed to enable Google's developers to build innovative software and services at scale. We've been building and operating a hyperscale cloud for a long time. The goals remain the same: make it easy to build and run great software and deliver it on a global scale reliably and securely. This cloud now powers 8 1 billion user products, active users, Google Search, Google Maps, YouTube, Gmail, Android, Google Chrome, Google Play Store, and now Google Cloud Platform. which reaches over 1 billion end users every month using the same infrastructure that powers Google's own services through customers like Snapchat, Spotify, retailers like the Home Depot, productivity apps like Evernote. Each day, these GCP customers, the Google Cloud Platform, collectively touch over 1 billion different IP addresses worldwide. With Google Cloud, we're building a cloud that's pretty different. Let me review a bit of history to better explain this. The first wave of cloud started about 20 years ago with co-located hosting. Co-location gave users the efficiency of renting the physical space rather than investing in their own data center real estate. Most cloud use today shares a lot of common similarities with the private data centers and colo facilities of decades past. The components of these virtual data centers often match the physical building blocks of hosted computing, right? Servers, CPUs, hard drives, load balancers, and so on. The difference now is they're simply virtual devices, virtual services. That's what we call the second wave of cloud. What had been a purchase order has become an API, which has had a profound impact for many. But the basic building blocks of computing haven't yet changed, and it's still very difficult to orchestrate them even when they are virtualized. So this model forces most developers to spend much of their time thinking about things other than making their applications great. Do we have enough servers? Are all of them patched? Did we pre-purchase too much capacity? In the virtualized data center model that most people think of as cloud, this never gets easier. And like many companies, today, Google used to run this kind of cloud internally themselves until we realized our business couldn't move fast enough unless we reduced the complexity of that model. So about 10 years ago, we switched to a container-based architecture. This is the third wave of cloud that consists of a combination of automated services and scalable data. Think of products like YouTube that serve millions of users each minute. Yet the developers working on these applications update the production code multiple times a day with zero disruption, and their systems are still resilient and secure. What makes this possible is that we started from first principles of designing every element of our infrastructure, including the tool chain, so that our developers can be more productive while enjoying that unprecedented scale and reliability and security. Meaning developers don't need to spin up servers or configure networks or patch operating systems. They can simply focus on building innovative software, which is ultimately how companies delight their customers and motivate their employees and win new markets. So we're delivering this vision today on GCP with products like App Engine, where you never see servers or patches and can literally spend 0 hours on administration per year. Customers like Snapchat, with all their hyper growth, have never had to hire any infrastructure resources to scale. With products like BigQuery, our data warehouse and big data query engine, you don't have to provision and maintain an analytics cluster. With our managed Hadoop product called DataProc, you can be up and running in 90 seconds. The goal here is to focus on functionality and not manage infrastructure. To achieve this, we're making a massive investment in this global infrastructure. And the cloud platform benefits from this and is able to translate it into new services, new capabilities, and better operations for our enterprise and mid-market customers. Google invested nearly $10 billion into this infrastructure in 2015 and $27 billion in capital expenditure over the trailing 3 years prior. That's a lot of money and a big statement to our commitment that this is a long play and Google's invested for the long run. But we're really just at the beginning of this cloud transformation. The pace is getting faster every day. Deutsche Bank took the top 3 public cloud vendors, AWS, Google, and Azure, and added up their estimated revenues. and then said the IT industry is about $1 trillion business, but the public cloud providers currently only capture 5% of that market. We're at 5% of the total available market today. We're moving fast. We have well over 10,000 engineers working on this. This is the largest group of engineers and product managers of any division within Google. You see this reflected in the pace of innovation, 339 product releases last year, and lots of really fun growth across different product areas. Storage and compute, what we often think of as infrastructure as a service and cloud computing, and what the Infrascale products take advantage of today. And those third wave products, like our platform development products like App Engine and containers, are growing rapidly as well. Let me touch on security also. Keeping our network and our customers' network secure is of the highest priority. We have more than 600 full-time engineers, including some of the world's foremost experts in this field, in computer security, who work to protect your information. The building that my office is now in here in Mountain View used to house an entire building of security experts. They've since moved to a bigger building, if that's an indication. We future-proof the Google Cloud Platform against these security threats by constantly evolving our threat detection and response mechanisms to recognize these different forms of attack. And you'll see our presence felt within the community in publishing academic papers and making sure we adhere to various industry certifications. Let me talk a bit about the network. Our networking technology is profoundly different than anything available anywhere. We're on our 5th generation of network infrastructure design, and we've implemented a 100x increase in bandwidth over the last 10 years. This provides our customers with petabyte-a-second bandwidth within our network, one of the highest capacity networks in the world. Google is the world's largest ISP, with more points of presence than any other network provider. And we own every mile of fiber within this network. As a unique differentiator to some of the other public cloud vendors out there, we can maintain that speed and coverage given we own all of the fiber. We will announce additional regions in the future. We see strong demand for capacity from customers around the world. So we expect to maintain this pace of announcing new regions throughout the calendar year of 2017 and into 2018. Again, all of these connected by Google's private network, which is the most direct connection to your end users wherever they reside. So think if your application connects to your end users, it will do so via the same network that Google users have come to expect for those consumer services everywhere. Google Compute Engine lets you create and run virtual machines on Google's infrastructure. It offers scale and performance and value that allows you to easily launch large compute clusters on Google's infrastructure. As the Infrascale disaster recovery customers take advantage of today. We are the price performance leader in public cloud compute infrastructure, and some customers can see nearly 50% savings compared to other cloud providers, not just because of features that we've built in like automatic discounts for continued usage, but also because we allow you to pay for only what you want when you need it, with features like custom virtual machines, not a sort of single t-shirt size for spinning up VMs. If you only need 2 gig of RAM, you can have it. If you need 16 gig of RAM, you can also have it as well. And features like per-minute billing. If you spin up a VM and you only use it for 7 minutes of the hour, we're only going to bill you for 7 minutes. Compute Engine instances also boot very, very fast. And this is a result of our infrastructure really being built for future-proofing. Behind the scenes, we're actually running compute VMs in containers, which allow us to boot them in the range of 40 to 50 seconds. This is roughly a fifth of the time required by competing clouds. And if you think very important in the space we're talking about here in retrieving images and getting your business back up and running. Lastly, we are the only cloud provider with built-in transparent live migration, which really allows us to upgrade or replace hardware without affecting the uptime of the workloads running on it. And as a result, we're able to avoid many of the common causes of cloud provider service outage. All of these we want to pass on to you as a customer. That's it for me. Thank you, everyone, for spending some time with us today. We're very excited at this partnership that we're getting off the ground here. So thank you.
Great, thank you. So let me now take on the next section of our webinar here. And this is really to sort of highlight the uniqueness that comes from combining the Infrascale solutions with some of the capabilities of the Google Cloud. Now, this is more than just running our services on a cloud, because it turns out that as relates to the Google Cloud, there are some unique capabilities that it brings that are relevant, or uniquely relevant, I should say, to disaster recovery and backup. And those unique capabilities I really sort of put into three buckets. The first one is speed. If you are just doing ongoing primary compute, you're running production systems in the cloud, you've brought them up, they run continuously, that's fine. But in a DR environment, you've got an additional requirement. Typically, in a DR scenario, systems are not running. They are dormant and waiting in case an emergency happens. When that emergency happens, you have to be able to boot those systems really quickly in order to minimize downtime. And so what you need is a cloud environment that can boot machines really quickly. We promote a 15-minute RTO guarantee. We will have any one of your systems up and running in 15 minutes or less. Typically, it happens in seconds or a few minutes. So in working with a public cloud provider, we need that same performance. We have a lot of experience with many clouds, and in some cases we've seen that it can take hours to get something up and running. And more than that, not only does it take hours, it's not even consistent. One day it might take 1 hour, the next day it might take 4 hours, the third day it might take 55 minutes. You never quite know. With Google, what we found in working with their cloud was that boot times were really quick and it was consistent. So you could always predict pretty much what time it was going to take. And when you're in a DR situation, that actually matters. The next area that's quite interesting is scalability. Oftentimes when we work with disaster recovery customers, they have any number of machines that they want protected, right, that were originally configured for the needs of the application. And so when they implement a DR solution, they're looking to have as much performance as possible in this sort of second scenario. And so but typically what you have is you have a bunch of machines that were running on independent servers that are now going to be running either on one appliance or in one cloud. And so if you try and force fit all those diverse requirements into like a t-shirt size scheme of machine types, that can be kind of limiting. We often see where there's applications and servers that need lots and lots of RAM, others need lots of storage, some more CPU. And so the ability to fine-tune custom machine types becomes very, very important. Another aspect of scalability, I know Adam brought this up, was minute-level billing. If you're running operations continuously in the cloud, being billed by the month, by the week, or by the hour even, that's okay, because as far as you're concerned, you're running continuously. When you're doing DR, however, whether you have a disaster or you're just doing a DR test, those tests, for example, might last minutes or a few hours, but they're most likely not going to last days and weeks. And a minimum of 1 month of storage, anytime you want to use something, it doesn't really match the use pattern in a DR test scenario. And so the ability to have fine-grained billing for usage of cloud is something that is uniquely relevant to disaster recovery testing and disaster recovery events. The next area that's interesting is scope of presence, or scale of presence, I guess I could call it. A lot of times these days there are organizations that are in particular countries, industries where there are rules around where that data can go or where it cannot go. All right, what we oftentimes call data sovereignty rules. So there's many countries, for example, where take Australia, take Canada, take England, where the data just can't leave the country. So if you're going to move that data to the cloud, it has to stay within a local point of presence. What this map shows right here is an overlay of Infrascale's own points of presence together with Google's points of presence. And although we didn't initially set out for this, it just came out to be this way. It turns out that they were very, very complementary. So we have points of presence with Google that are in common, but for the most part, Google dramatically expands our reach of DR solutions across many, many more points in the globe. And so that's very, very interesting. What we're showing here on this diagram at a very high level is the integration between the two companies' services. So this chart is best read from the bottom up. At the very bottom, you see Infrascale Cloud Backup and Infrascale Disaster Recovery. At the next layer up, you'll see the source systems that we're trying to protect, whether it's Windows or Unix or Linux systems or VMware or Hyper-V virtual machines. In all cases, there's either going to be an agent installed, a software agent installed on the machine, or in the case of virtual environments, in the case of VMware, it'll be a direct connection to their API for data protection. In the case of Hyper-V, it'll be a host level or hypervisor level agent, so not one on every single virtual machine. In all cases, we're going to capture those systems. In the case of Cloud Backup, we will deduplicate the data and directly transmit it for safekeeping in the Google Cloud. In the case of DR, we will capture that onto an on-premise appliance, deduplicate there, and then replicate that data into the cloud, giving there 2 copies of that data. Everything is administered through our central web-based dashboard. Okay, so if we begin to think about some of the technical and business opportunities that come out of this, there's a lot of opportunities here. There may be many companies, among your clients who are looking at cloud or thinking about cloud or want to do something with cloud and trying to think, okay, what's the first good thing to try, or what's a good thing to use the cloud for? Turns out that disaster recovery is a very good first step into cloud computing. It is not necessarily your primary compute. It is something that you put in place, as an emergency plan. But in doing so, you're actually replicating your systems into the cloud, running them, making sure that everything runs fine, if God forbid you have a disaster. And in doing so, what companies have actually done is they've proved out that the cloud can actually work for their applications. And so it's a perfect on-ramp to deciding, maybe I want to do more in the cloud and not just do, disaster recovery in the cloud. So one of the unique synergies of disaster recovery and general cloud is that it's good for providing clients with a good disaster recovery solution, and it also serves as a very good proof point for how else they might use cloud computing in their organizations. So the announcement of today is the availability of Infrascale Cloud Backup and Infrascale Disaster Recovery on the Google Cloud, available globally, available today. And so now when we sort of shift a little bit more, a bit of a business conversation, think, okay, so this is great from a product and service point of view. What does it mean for me in my business, as a managed service provider, as an integrator, as a reseller, as a partner to Infrascale and Google? What does this mean for my business? And there's any number of things that might actually be a benefit to you depending on what kind of business you have, right? So it might be that you want to get into providing disaster recovery as a service to your clients. And so that the joint Google Infrascale solution ends up being a very compelling solution for you to offer to your clients. It might be that you have been traditionally offering data backup services and maybe even DR services, and you've wanted to expand into offering more cloud-based services and options to your clients. And so DR becomes a very good segue, if you wish, to move, to expand from just backup and DR into more general cloud-based services for your clients. It might be that you are already an existing Google partner, and you're already, partnering with Google to provide, their services to your clients. And backup and disaster recovery, are very good ways to expand your Google footprint with your clients and with Google, right? For example, if you are very motivated around, Google storage, I can assure you that data backup and disaster recovery will grow your Google storage business. If you're looking to expand into applications and infrastructure and whatever else, DR can be a very good way to do that as well. If you're looking to expand global reach, maybe you have customers in particular countries where the data has to stay in that country, and you weren't able to offer a solution that met that requirement, and maybe now you can. Another thing that might be a benefit for you is the ability to expand the return of investment that you make into your sales and marketing. Oftentimes we have partners who will combine efforts. I'm going to promote disaster recovery to my clients together with cloud computing, and I'm going to leverage an integrated solution in order to carry dual messages all in one stroke, and therefore maximize the opportunity that I might get to increase my business with clients in doing so. And then lastly, a lot of people have partner programs. Some partner programs look good on paper. Some partner programs actually deliver. We like to think that the Infrascale partner program and that the Google partner programs, each of them deliver. We deliver real leads, real co-marketing. We will roll up our sleeves and work with you to develop joint marketing programs that help win you business, because when you win business, obviously we both win business. So in the case of Infrascale, we have a three-tier partner program that provides an increasing level of benefit based on which level you're in. Just by registering with us, you get access to not for resale demo systems, hybrid cloud systems from us. If you move up to the next tier, you get more more human interaction, more hands-on interaction, and beginning of some incentives. And then if you get to our highest tier, we basically roll up our sleeves and work with you, one-to-one to make sure that we do something that really, really grows your business as well as ours and Google's. And so as part of this announcement, we're offering any partner who would like to get involved a joint free trial where you can get free trial and credits both from Google and from Infrascale. You can add those two together in order to try out our joint solution and see if this is something that can work for you. And with that, I will transition it back to Chris for our final poll question.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys, for your presentations, and thank you for participating with us so far. So yeah, we have a final poll question for everybody in the audience. If you wouldn't mind just taking time to answer the following poll question. I will keep it up while we go through the Q&A questions for the Q&A portion of this program. Okay, so quick reminder, if you have a question and you enter it, you are automatically entered into the running to win a Parrot drone. That's right, a cool Parrot drone. So if you have a question, feel free to enter it. Hopefully we get a lot of questions, so that way we have a good field. But enter a question, it'll be entered into the competition to win the Parrot drone. So please feel free to enter some questions into the Q&A, and you'll be entered into that. So without any further ado, let's start asking some questions. One here that came in for you, Stefan, is Infrascale HIPAA compliant?
So yes, we are, and are happy to sign any business associate agreements we need to do. We need to sign in support of that.
Excellent, excellent. Could you go into a little bit more, Stefan, on where are all the Infrascale data centers located?
Yes, so on the map that I had shown a few slides ago, what it showed was that we have a number of data centers across the United States, Los Angeles, Texas, Utah, New Jersey, Kentucky. We have one in Canada. We have a couple in the UK, Germany, Australia, and South Africa. And in addition to that, we also, a lot of our customers have opted to have private cloud deployments, and we manage those as well, and there's any number of those all over the world as well.
Question here, this person is asking, I'm an MSP, how can I go about making money?
So if you are a managed service provider, then what I would say is obviously you're oriented around providing a service. Typically, you will often brand the service as under your own company brand. Depending on what kind of services you're offering, the joint solution here from Google and Infrascale can provide a very good way for you to make money, primarily because it is a recurring revenue stream. Okay, when you sign up clients to our joint solution, this is a recurring revenue stream to you. So you sell once, earn many, which is unlike other things which are sort of sell once, then have to go sell again next quarter to keep earning revenue. So if typically as a managed service provider, you're looking for that kind of ongoing recurring revenue, and so we support you with pricing models that do exactly that.
Question here for you. Is Infrascale channel only, or do you sell direct?
We are channel only.
Okay, excellent. We got a question here. Let's go for a question for Adam. Adam, so what are some of the key differentiators between your cloud service and other cloud providers out there? Would you mind just going over a couple? What makes Google kind of more awesome than the rest?
Sure. With respect to the infrastructure, I think I covered a lot of those points around kind of compute engine and its features. But you'll see us in the market differentiating around things that kind of surround the infrastructure, right? So leading with data and analytics as a play, and really kind of reinforcing our industry leadership around machine learning and managed services that can support that. You might have seen that the open source machine learning model called TensorFlow. That was a Google research project, and we intend to support that as a managed service on GCP. Similarly, Kubernetes, the open source container orchestration system, Google's also the largest contributor to the Kubernetes project. So expect us to see, to kind of differentiate there around a managed Kubernetes service. And then, I talked about sort of zero ops, no maintenance of infrastructure, and that third wave of computing. App Engine is our product there that's been around for years, almost really ahead of its time. But we'll continue to kind of push the platform as a service message through App Engine. And if you look at some of our acquisitions as of late, they're going to continue to round out our story. So Orbitera, who are a cloud commerce enablement platform, and Apogee, who are a leader in kind of API enablement through a digital transformation, are going to become key assets for us here as we continue to evolve.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Adam. Question here for Stefan. This person's asking, that anomaly detection sounds pretty great. Is there a way I could get a trial and test it out myself? How do I go about doing that? So if you use the trial we just offered you with Infrascale Cloud Backup, then the anomaly detection technology that I referred to is included in that. It is not separately priced or anything like that. It's part of our offering, and so you can feel free to try it out. Excellent, great. Got a question here. Is there any way you could send this person an NFR, and how would they go about setting that up?
Yeah, so for that they should contact our sales department, or feel free to contact us, through our website. We have all of our contact information on the main website, or any contact info at the end of this webinar, and we'll definitely, take care of you.
Excellent, excellent. Question here, does Infrascale offer MDF for partners?
Yes, we do. In fact, on the partner tier slide that I showed a few slides ago, I showed that there was different levels of MDFs that were available depending on what tier partner that you were. So yes, the answer is definitely yes.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys, for getting through all the questions that we had from the audience today. We will announce the winner via email, so if you ask your question, we will pick you at random, and we will email you probably within a couple hours after the webcast is over today, where you could claim your prize. So thank you all for joining today's presentation. Today's presentation, Faster Failover, Starts with a Faster Cloud, has been sponsored by Infrascale and brought to you by rcpmag.com. Thank you all in attendance for attending attending today's show, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care, everyone, and we'll talk again soon.